you ever walked away from a meeting feeling disrespected, but you couldn't quite explain why? Maybe someone joked at your expense, downplayed your concerns, or told you to relax when you were being perfectly reasonable. That's not a personality clash. It might be micro-gaslighting. The research shows that even subtle forms of gaslighting at work can lead to burnout, self-doubt, and a drop in performance and job satisfaction. But I think the worst part is it makes you question your own reality. So, in today's episode of Workplace Therapy, I'll teach you how to spot micro gaslighting in real time, what to say when it happens, and how to stay grounded so you don't hand over your power. Welcome to episode 2 of Workplace Therapy with Dr. Abby Metcalf. Just really excited you're here, excited to be doing this podcast. So, let's talk about it. You're in a meeting, you share an idea, and let's say your manager brushes it off, with, one of my favorites. We've already tried that. And 5 minutes later, someone else pitches basically the same thing, and suddenly the idea is genius. Or maybe you get feedback like that, you're just too emotional when you calmly voiced a concern. And I think as a woman, I know I've had this quite a bit. In my experience, men don't get that one quite as much, but I know I have. Or maybe you're told no one else seems to have a problem. This seems, I never had this problem before with someone who worked for me or something like that. When you're raising an issue, and especially when you're raising something, others have privately complained about. So there's a slow, subtle erosion of confidence, and that's really micro-gaslighting. It's not screaming. It's not necessarily overt manipulation like kind of regular gaslighting is. It's plausibly deniable. That's what I find. There's kind of plausible deniability there. It leaves you wondering, did that actually happen? Am I being too sensitive? That's really the hallmark of gaslighting in any context. It makes you really question your reality. But in the workplace, in my experience, it's often unintentional, but that doesn't make it any less toxic. So let me just talk about the psychology of it quickly before we get into my steps. Micro-gaslighting is really a cousin to traditional gaslighting. It lives in subtle invalidations, rewriting history, rewriting what was said, dismissing concerns, dismissing concerns as if they're your personal flaws, acting like you imagined it all of those things. And it really thrives in power dynamics. So boss to employee, senior staff to junior, and definitely peer to peer when someone's trying to maintain their status. And the result, of course, is that, again, you start to second guess yourself. You ruminate, you maybe silence your voice. And over time, that chronic doubt really becomes internalized really becomes internalized, and it chips away at what we psychologists call psychological safety, which is really, and in a team, it's the shared belief that a team is safe for interpersonal, risk taking, for sharing your ideas and collaborating and, maybe getting messy in a meeting. And because without it, people shut down, productivity drops, people don't take chances and come up with ideas, burnout spikes. It's really, really bad. And again, the research, I'm going to link to all the research, either below the video if you're watching on YouTube or on my website. You can find all the research that I talk about and any download and everything else there. So the studies have shown that low psychological safety, which is what we're talking about when there's micro-gaslighting, is directly tied to lower engagement, to higher turnover, and increased anxiety at work. So in case you have a boss or a supervisor who doesn't think this is a big deal, you can point them to all the research. How do you like that? So let's talk about the fix. What do you do? There's 4 steps you can take to deal with micro-gaslighting at work. Okay, 4 main things. Step 1 is you have to trust your gut. If something feels off, you want to pause and name that feeling. Any confusion is your cue that something's up. You don't have to immediately confront the person. just start with awareness. And to do this effectively, you're going to have to start being mindful. I'll do future episodes on mindfulness, but for now, I'm going to highly recommend that you download I have a free mindfulness starter kit because you should start practicing this today. So no matter what, go get that. And if you're really interested in mindfulness now and don't want to wait, part of my Relationships Made Easy podcast, the other podcast I have, for 8 years, I've been talking about mindfulness. So if you want to put that keyword in my website, you'll find quite a bit. So, but for, get the mindful, it's free. Anyway, so that's number one. Okay. You got to start naming it. You have to start being aware of it. You can't stay in this confused, I'm not sure what's going on state, or giving them the benefit of the doubt anymore. That has likely been going on way too long. Step 2, name what you noticed. So try something like, I noticed when I brought that idea up, it wasn't acknowledged, but when it came up again later, it was treated differently. Can we talk about that? Or I always love the I'm confused. As a woman, this works really well. I'm confused. I find that people like to help a woman who's confused. As sad as that is to even say out loud, it's the truth of it. But I know this works for men too, because I have lots of men in my private practice. So, and all these executives I've been working with for all these years tend to be men. Again, do you see how direct that is? It's not confrontational. You keep it factual, keep it calm, keep it yours. That's step 2. Step 3, again, is really to use this confusion language to diffuse. So steps 2 and 3 are sort of, combined in a way. So I'll say something like, I might be misunderstanding, but I really felt dismissed in that moment. It's not accusatory, but it's very direct, which is great. Again, I'm confused. I brought up that idea earlier in the meeting and it was dismissed, but when it was brought up later by Harry, you loved it. What am I missing here? I'll say that too. Am I missing something? I don't understand. I'm confused. Another favorite and great thing to do is to say, I need your help with something. When you ask someone for help, they're immediately in a whole different thing because they're not thinking you're going to accuse them of anything, right? They're using a different part of their brain. When you come at someone with feedback, they're starting to get defensive usually. But when you say to someone, hey, I need your help with something, and then you do this, so effective. Really, it's biological. So again, I need your help with something. I've brought up ideas a few times in the last month that I feel were ignored, but I noticed that when someone else raised the same idea, you liked it. Can you help me understand how I should be communicating my ideas more effectively to you? Do you see that? You're taking full ownership of it. Like it's your fault, quote unquote, it's your responsibility, whatever, that the person wasn't getting it. But it's very effective because when you call things out, and actually, I think of this as calling in, not calling out. And I want you to think of it that way too. You're not, if you're trying to catch someone or get them or whatever, that energy is going to be transmitted and you're going to be very sad about it because they're not going to listen. They're going to feel defensive and you're going to get pushed back. When you do this sort of one down approach, because you can be correct or effective. I say it all the time. You can be correct all day long that they should have gotten this. They shouldn't dismiss your ideas and like someone else's, or maybe that you're correct that they're a misogynist or racist or something else. You could be correct. Are you being effective? Are your ideas being heard? Are you on the track to like your job and to feel valued and to be seen as someone who, produces or whatever you're trying, or maybe get promoted, whatever it is you're trying to do? You do want to be correct or effective? You got to ask yourself that. And that's why these steps really do work. And again, been employing these for years in different multitude of situations, work situations, and they're really effective. Step 4 is that you got to hold your boundary. So, you try these things first, right? You do the first 3 steps and see what happens like the next time, to see if it happens again. Sometimes just calling it out will stop it. Bullies don't like to be, again, called in. They don't like it. They when they see you're watching and you're calling them on it, often they'll change their behavior. You'd be surprised. But if not, you have to hold your boundary. And, you can say, hey, I want to make sure my contributions are being heard fairly, right? Again, it's not about being liked, it's about being valued. And yes, this looks different depending on the dynamic, right? So maybe with a boss, you might stick to language that reflects kind of the shared goals there at work. So one of my favorite things to say is, I want to make sure I'm aligned with your expectations and that my ideas are considered equally. Do you see that? If it's with a peer, you can be a little more relational. You can say, hey, when you repeated what I said and got the credit, I really felt overlooked. I want to find a better way for us to collaborate. See that? I know. And when in doubt, I'm going to tell you this: document, validate yourself, talk to a trusted colleague, do something. I don't like a lot of talking about people. I think it becomes gossip. But if you have one trusted colleague you go to, that one person, maybe your work husband or wife or something, then that can work. But otherwise, be careful. But definitely document. Start putting this into something, especially if it's a boss. But even if it's a coworker, because sometimes you need to really show, like, on this date, this happened, on this date, this happened, on this date, this happened. And it can really help you not feel crazy, because you're not. You're noticing something real, and that has to be validated. So I'm going to wrap up by saying micro-gaslighting is sneaky, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's your superpower. You're not being dramatic, you're being observant, and you get to protect your energy and your voice at work. Okay. So, this week, just start by noticing if something leaves you confused or second guessing, you should be flagging it, at least to yourself. That's the first step in really reclaiming your clarity. So in every one of these episodes, I'm going to put today's lesson into action. I'm going to have a little section always at the end to put today's lesson into action. So, again, I can teach you every great tool in the world, but if you don't remember to use them in the moment, they're useless. So the answer to this is learning to be more mindful. So again, I highly recommend you download the free Mindfulness Starter Kit, but I also have a free download specific to today's episode. I'm calling it the Micro-Gaslighting Response Toolkit. So you can download it, again, below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or by coming over to the website, abbymetcalf.com, coming to this episode. And I'm going to have, all these little things I just said out loud will all be in one place, like on one sheet. So you can just print them out, take a quick look, remind yourself before a meeting. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Make sure you send any ideas for future episodes or things you want covered to abby@abbymetcalf.com. and or comment below the video, and I'll talk to you real soon.